I'm in the town today of Axminster. Axminster is in the southeastern corner of Devon, a small town, population of only around 5,000 people. But the name is well known. Axminster carpets used to be the byword for quality floor coverings. Up against the road here, you may hear the traffic noise in the background. Fascinating design here, with this cross but the curling sort of scroll running through it. There are words on that scroll, and the memorial is dedicated to Jane Endicott. Here's a good example of the stonemason's craft. We've got the flowers running down the front of the cross, and up here we've got the peace dove with its olive leaves, olive branch in its mouth. The name at the bottom here, Arthur George Coombs Otten. This one is to William Loud and his wife Mary Loud. Big slab tomb here. This one is for Emma, the beloved wife of Frederick John Gunn, 1867, aged 38. And then beneath that is Frederick John Gunn. On the other side is Anne, the wife of William Gunn, 1867, and then William Gunn, looks like 1880. There are 4 guns in this tomb. There's a tall obelisk here, clear inscription. I have to crouch down beneath this tree to see it. The inscription reads, "The memory of Francis George and George William, sons of the said William and Mary Ann Phillips, who died in their infancy and are interred in the parish churchyard." Another good example of the stonemason's craft, looking at the flowers around the top arc. Very intricate work. And this is to Julia, dearly beloved wife of William Crabb, and second daughter of the late John and Sarah Ann Wakely. She was 42 in 1902. Something a little different in the symbolism on this one. At the top there is a crown, which appears to be radiating light, or maybe it's the sun behind it. And this is in memory of Lizzie, the second daughter of Arthur and Jane Hayter. She was born in 68 and she died in 1910. This one here has got looks like a rose carved into the centre of the cross there. And down here we have the names Gertrude, the only child of George and Cora Cloud. She was just 21 when she died. Carving here of looks like ivy leaves, and a really uncommon name here, Walter Overmass, died in 1911, and his wife beneath there, Eva Amy Overmass. A polished granite obelisk here, with a decided lean to the right, but on the base of it, this is in loving memory of the 4 daughters of Solomon and Elizabeth Newbury. Here they've brought out the flower and the words "in loving memory" in relief, carved it out of the stone. And this is William James Bullard. 1927. And again we've got some intricate carving at the top there. The flowers carved into the stone, the rather lovely orange lichen growing over the stone, and the name down there is John Hebden. This one reads, erected by Mrs. Octavia Macpherson in loving memory of her brother, the Reverend J. Clement Angel, one-time minister of the Congregational Church. I'm guessing the surname Angel is quite good for a reverend. I'm not quite sure why Mrs. Octavia Macpherson needs to have her name on there. Possibly the tallest monument in this graveyard. Dedicated to Edwin Henry Dawkins. He died 1914, aged 63. The stonemasons here clearly enjoyed doing these carvings into the stone. All the way around the edge we have leaves, and in the centre we have the peace dove and more plants and flowers. The stone is dedicated to Susan, the widow of William Grigg, 1906, aged 87. A little further into the graveyard is a small section of children's graves. Always very touching to see these. One here to the local bank manager. The inscription reads, William John Jefford, late of the Wilts and Dorset Bank of this town, 1842 to 1907. One here with the clasped hands, but it's interesting to see the hand at the back has the forefinger straight rather than wrapped around the other hand. Probably some significance to that. Anyway, the monument is to Edith, the wife of George Morrish, 1925, aged 60. One here with a slight tilt to the left. Interesting inscription on it. The first thing to notice is the bicycle, and this is in loving memory of William Willis, a cycle rider who was drowned whilst bathing in Ways Hole in the River Axe, 1896, aged 19 years. Competing for the largest memorial, and certainly in probably the most prominent position, is this one. The inscription is to George Philip Rickney Pullman, a native of Axminster and author of the Book of the Axe and several works of local interest, as well as the founder in 1857 and the proprietor and editor for 20 years afterwards of a local newspaper, remarkable for its advocacy of freedom and for its true English spirit. He died in 1880. And like almost every other graveyard in this country, there are war graves. This is Captain W.C. Mentz of the Royal Army Medical Corps, aged 42 in 1919. Interesting family name on this one, Gunner E. Trenchard, Royal Field Artillery, 1917. Trenchard, of course, was the Air Marshal Trenchard in the Second World War. He was head of the RAF. Probably no connection, but we don't see many Trenchards as a surname. Two more here. J.S. Channings of the Devonshire Regiment, 1918. J.H. Richards of the Labour Corps, 1918. And one here to R.W. Page, Devonshire Regiment, 1918. There are others in this graveyard. You could almost make a video just about the war graves. Little different, a rough slab of stone with the crossbar out in relief, and then the inscription is done with lead lettering. Percy E.T. Robinson, 1940, and Stanley G.F. Robinson, his son, 1925, and then his wife Sophia Jane Robinson. And further back in the graveyard we have 4 memorials here to the people who died in the Second World War. This one is H. Quinlan of the Royal Engineers, S.R. Foster of the Duke of Cornwall Light Infantry, W.C. Coleman, the Queen's Own Royal West Kent Regiment, that's a long title, and the 4th one is R.G. Bartlett, Royal Army Service Corps. Right at the back of the cemetery we have this war grave to Flight Sergeant Harris DJ, 206 Squadron Kinloss, killed 1967 in a flying accident, aged 30 years, in loving memory of a very dear husband and father, forever in our thoughts. And there are some flowers still there, been put there really recently, so clearly remembered to this day. In this area there's clearly some newer graves. You can see particularly the black stone, which is very popular in the last couple of decades. This one is in loving memory of Philip Paul Bartram Warrington, who died tragically, aged 16 years. There's a war grave here, a recent one. Warrant Officer Class 2, John William Carr, Corps of Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, 2000, aged 43. Something a little different amongst all these very modern looking stones. This one is a great lump of rock, and the front face has been smoothed out and has the inscription engraved on it. Just makes it stand out from the rest of the memorials here. Memorial here to somebody of the Baha'i faith. This is a relatively modern religion, but now believed to have some 5 million followers. I can't begin to explain what it's all about, but there's plenty about it on the web, on Wikipedia. Here we have a garden of remembrance. These are for people who weren't buried here, probably cremated, but you have these smaller memorials and closer together, remembering them. Well, that's it. I've had a very pleasant time just reading the memorials in this graveyard in Axminster. If you get a chance, walk up the hill and come and spend an hour or two here. I've only seen one other person in all the time I was here. Really is a peaceful spot. Till the next time.